Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who got into the industry by ordering the same drink as a stranger at a Christmas party and never looked back. And with over 23 years in mortgage, she's built her business from the ground up around one simple idea: that her job is to help people, whether that means saving them money, solving a puzzle nobody else could crack, or pointing them toward a competitor when that's the right call to make. Erin Hamilton, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you, Connor. Happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this conversation because it's been fun getting to know you and just getting to learn a little bit about your story. So I look forward to having the listeners get to learn about you as well. And I guess we'll just start with this. You didn't set out to be in mortgage. That was never really the plan. You were on a kinesiology track. You tried physical therapy, volunteered in sports medicine, and then you're at a random Christmas party. You order Bailey's on the rocks, the same drink as someone else, right? And in that moment, you know, there was a spark, I guess. And what was it about that conversation that made you think, yeah, you know, maybe I could do mortgage and be a loan officer?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the person that also ordered that drink. So her name is Diane Simarusti, and she was running mortgage for California for D.R. Horton. So she was the in-house for that. And she was just a powerhouse, like, you know, kind of had that confidence, the very professional, very warm, very engaging. And there was something about just talking with her where I guess she's one of those that when she sees something in somebody, she's not afraid to kind of point it out, right? So when I was talking to her and I'm doing personal training, I'm a degree in kinesiology, I really didn't like it. I was kind of bored because how many workout routines do you come up with or how many do you do? But then the person sabotages it by eating like crazy and then is wondering why the workouts aren't working, and it sort of becomes a reflection of you, right? And so she made a comment like, you would be really good in mortgage, like, and I go, what does that even mean? What does that, look like? And then I don't remember if it was that night or maybe like the next day kind of follow up. She actually needed an executive assistant. So for me, it was a tiptoe into the industry. I could still keep some clients. And then it just snowballed when everything, so that was 2003, when we're in the land of stated income and everybody wants to buy a house and all of that stuff. Then I started doing employee loans. So that's how I got started. And then eventually it transitioned into, not being with her and being her assistant. But it was great because it also, being her assistant, I'm helping with project approvals, working with the city, talking to division presidents all over the state, realizing we all put our pants on the same way. Yes, respect that they're the division president, but doesn't mean that they're not people too. And you can have those conversations. So I guess it was just her belief and then really starting to like and learn at a rapid pace everything that kind of goes into it. Like to this day, I still have a heart for builder. I stepped away from it now maybe 2 years ago, but just closed 2 deals at a builder community. And I'm like, okay, this feels like home. I need to get back to doing this. So that's a long answer.
Yeah. No, I love that you found someone, by happenstance that saw something in you and was willing to take a chance, right? I think in our industry, it's really, what is the average age of a loan officer is somewhere in their late 40s. And this is an industry that is really habitually bad about bringing someone new from the outside in. Eventually that becomes a pretty big problem when you start to see, the loan officer population get to a place where they're ready to retire and it's, who's next up. And so I love your story because it's just, someone who was willing to have a conversation, saw the ability in them and was willing to say, hey, I want to give you an opportunity. And you made the most of it and took advantage of that opportunity and really turned it into something. And so I want to fast forward a little bit, because there was a moment that you had shared with me where you were at an event and Sean Herrero was the speaker, and you looked around the room and realized that you were the only loan officer there that did not have an assistant at the time. What did that moment sort of feel like? Was there kind of an emptiness there or an aha moment? And why do you think that environment was was a part of convincing you that going about it alone was not the best way to go forward?
Yeah, I think a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, right? And something that almost to a detriment, but also has helped me is I'm okay with paying money, sometimes money that I don't have, to try to help the learning curve speed up a little bit, right? And Sean, for those of you that don't follow, you should follow him. I always lined up with his philosophy about doing the right thing, not something that benefits me. How do I help, customers? So drawn into that, I was the first one. He does these tiny events down in Newport Beach, and so I was part of the first class that did that. And at the time, I just got tired of feeling like there was more, like more that I could be doing, a better way that I could be doing things. I always use the analogy, I felt like I was swimming while somebody's holding my ankle back. So I'm like trying. And then like, why can I not go? And at the time, I guess my daughter was like a year and a half, almost two, I guess now. And I'm killing myself. Like I do, she's not in daycare. I'm doing broker tours. I'm doing open houses. I'm working at the builder every other weekend. I'm like one of 8 out of 40 loan officers that's actually producing, but I'm at a place where it was almost like, well, what are you doing? You should just stay home and raise your daughter. I'm like, what the heck? I really am actually doing a lot right now. And so being at that room, and it was not inexpensive, but it was priceless, is what I like to say now. So, but I'm sitting in the room, and I forget how many people there were there. I call it like 8 other people, 9 other people, whatever it is. And we're sitting in like a U-shaped room, and they're talking, and I almost couldn't really listen or apply. Like I would be better off kind of going back now that I have a great assistant and I have a great processor. But he laid out like, hey, I do all this business and I'm not a giant team. I have this small team. Here's what each of us do. So it was kind of one ear out the other because I was doing all those things. But then I look around, I was the only one that did everything by themselves. Every single person, no matter what their production was, had a LOA. Some had a dedicated processor, some had more than one assistant that either they paid for or the company paid for or whatever it was. But that was a big, like, where I was, nobody really had an assistant, and that was fed to you as the norm. Or if you want one, it's going to cost you, $80,000 out of your own pocket, and the company's not going to help you at all. And that was, oh gosh, how would I even find that person? How am I even going to have time to train that person? What the heck? It just seemed really daunting. I think, not that I necessarily changed anything, but I had this moment where I was working and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that just happened. And the very next day, a recruiter called me. And that recruiter dropped the name of a gentleman that I work with now. And I said, oh my gosh, I love him. Well, that's funny. He said the same thing about you. And then, when I talked to him, he was like, no, we will get you an assistant. Like how he also kind of like Dan saw something in me. Like, I know that there's this ability in you, but you need support. And how do I then come up to help you soar? Not, okay, well, convince me that you need help and then we'll try to figure it out. So it's that alignment, I think, is always key. Mm-hmm. And I'm finally in a really good place, like alignment wise, for sure. Grateful.
I love that. And I love that you were willing to get into a room. And someone put it to me this way when it comes to like going to these events or being a part of a coaching community, is that you get to be around people that are doing things that you're not doing, and you get to really see what's possible. And for them, that was the big, value to it all, was seeing that, there's someone out there doing this, and and so you could do it too. And that eye-opening moment is so valuable when you realize, okay, there's other things, this career gets bigger, and but it just requires a little bit of a change or this type of shift, and we can go that direction. And then you have to evaluate, are you willing to take that path? So, but you like broke it down really beautifully in like an unconventional way, I guess. But you gave me, when we were talking before, this analogy of like, going fishing, right? Like if you went fishing, you catch the fish, you process the fish, you clean the fish, you cut it up, you put it in the package. Like if you're doing all that yourself, how many fish can you actually catch? So how did you finally like get the right team in place and to change what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, I think especially having my daughter, I could work at 6:30, and then sometimes I'm working till 11 p.m. And then, maybe I have 3 hours of focus time when she's taking a nap, but where is my ROI, right? Like, what are the activities I need to do for ROI? And then because I've been in this for so long and I have like a huge network, there's plenty of people that already like, know, trust me, but I didn't have that time to go ask for the business. Or I know that maybe I shouldn't say I didn't have the priorities right, or I didn't have, but I did get freedom from Todd Duncan, who's the king of time blocking, right? I saw him at an event and I stepped in the hallway and said to him, this is my situation, this is my problem. And he goes, oh, you can't time block. And it's like the freedom I got from that, like the king of time blocking telling me that time blocking wouldn't work for me, really was freeing, because, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And that's a Theodore Roosevelt, not an Erin thing. And it's one of those things where I kept comparing, oh my gosh, why are they able to do this? Why are they able to do that? And it's like, no, you can't. This season in your life, maybe when she's a couple years older or whatever, but you really can't. And so for me, having, and my assistant is shared, but she made the mistake one day of sharing her screen with me while she was in Encompass. And my pipeline is labeled my main boo, which made me laugh. And so she is, I share with a couple people, but I'm more of the producer for her. And that really helped, because I have like this trust factor. I can go talk to people and know that someone else is checking for large deposits. Someone else is checking to see if the bridge file was set up properly. I'm not creating a bridge file where I would have all these calls I was going to make, like at the last company I was at. I'm going to do all this stuff, but then a file blows up and underwriters suspending something. So I could never get out to do what I know I'm actually good at. Now I can go do that and then come back, and somebody else is, I'm catching the fish, they're processing it, they're packaging it, they're making it, whatever. So that has been a huge lift. And then what drives me crazy is to find out that's pretty normal in our industry. It just took me way too long to get there. So
Yeah. Well, and isn't it a shame that we just don't like that normal isn't what we talk about all the time?
right.
Something that I really hope to kind of bring to the forefront through this podcast is just to sort of reveal to other originators that might be feel stuck or struggling to get beyond where they are and they're on the verge of burnout, to realize that, hey, there are other ways of going about this that people are actually doing. And, maybe you could learn something from reaching out and have a conversation, find out how they're doing it. Now, something I wanted to go in with you on was this concept of niching down, because I know, you've gotten into this place where you've got the buy now, sell later product, and you're really leaning into that heavily. You'll go on the broker tours, just one flyer, one conversation. We're going to talk buy now, sell later. And I'm just curious, like, what made you decide to go kind of in a niche direction, and what have the results been since that?
Yeah, I think that we always hear that, the, riches in the niches. And I've always worked at places that had a lot of products, like a lot of things that are different. The problem is, if you're like everybody else, you're not memorable, right? So I learned, especially back to my daughter, in that ROI, like what is going to help me stand out? What can I actually bring? Because I'm more of a giver than I am a taker. Like, how can I help? How can I help a realtor's business? How can I help a client that I've worked with in the past that I know has outgrown their space, moving into something else? What is actually bringing value? And our buy now, sell later has been a total game changer. I increased my business 36% last year just from focusing on that product. And I have access to all the other regular bridges that everybody else does, but ours, Planet Home Lending, actually has an in-house product. And the fact that it's in-house helps with speed, number one. It also helps with guidelines. So of course you have to have guidelines on any program, or, we call them bumpers or rails, right? So I remember reading the guidelines, like, why do we care what the credit score is on a bridge? Because on a bridge loan, the house is really qualifying. It's not the person, for us, because we don't require a payment on the bridge. Some places, their programs, they do require a payment on the bridge. So then, debt to income, all that stuff matters. But for us, it doesn't matter. So one story I'd share with you before when we talked was, part of the guidelines was, hey, we won't go over a bridge amount of $450,000. Well, that's great in Texas and Kansas and Idaho and wherever. But where I'm at in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, That's not enough. There's a lot of people that have been in the homes for a while that are, $1.8 million and they owe 200,000, or maybe it's free and clear, and then they're trying to buy something else. I felt like an auctioneer almost, like, do I hear 650? Do I hear 625? And I kept submitting bridges higher because I am asked for forgiveness, not permission, is more how I roll. So I would submit these. Okay, well, look at them because they really want to do stuff that makes sense. Like, I love that about where I work. It's not how can we turn stuff down, because I worked for the big banks too. I felt like they were looking for ways not to do loans. Here it's okay, how can we make loans work, right? But when I was going over those guidelines, now it's a second level review and now it's blah, blah, blah. So they said, okay, now company wide, we're going to jump to 650. Now the maximum bridge is 650. Great. Do I hear 875? Do I hear, 900? And so the guidelines still say 650, but your girl does over 650 all the time. And I appreciate that support and the ability to do that. So it just became kind of a no-brainer when I'm talking to people, just like everybody. Oh, I can close in 14 days. I answer my phone all the time. Good, you should. Like, you should answer your phone, actually. None of that's different. But I know for a fact, like, I've had agents tell me, I got a listing because I brought up your program. I got a buyer at an open house because they came in and they were going to be contingent. And I told them about how they don't have to be contingent. A big thing with me is we don't add anything to the rate on the next purchase, where like my closest competitor does. So when I find out like who works with that, then I kind of bring up, hey, let me tell you about, mine. So it's sort of a no-brainer. I mean, I've done a 750 bridge where just the fee somewhere else at a broker, somebody was being quoted 42,000. I was just under 11. It's a no-brainer, but it's how do you get that message out there? And that's where my flyer, all I talk about strategy. And I've been doing that consistently for probably a year and a half. Every Thursday,
Wow.
my team knows I'm on broker tour. Yeah.
Well, I love that
And
you
now I'm trying to go to different ones, but yeah.
right, and I love that you recognize that there was a need in your market that you had a solution for, and then just took the initiative to say, "I'm all in on that solution." And I think that's just an important, like, a takeaway from that scenario is, for a loan officer who's in a different market, it doesn't have to be the same product. It could be something completely different where you are. Maybe you live in a medical town and you need a doctor loan, or
Yep.
maybe could use a manufactured loan, something along those lines. But being the person who's the expert on the best solution for a specific problem does set you up to be the go-to person on every time that problem comes up, and now you start to build off of that. So I think that's really smart what you're doing. And something that we talked about was that you're in the process of really trying to evaluate relationships and be mindful about going deeper in the referral partner relationships, as opposed to being so focused on going wider. And even talked about expanding into maybe working with more CPAs and financial advisors and those sorts of things. What does that referral network strategy look like in practice?
So I feel I can be like a lot of people, that shiny object syndrome, especially with AI. And what I realize is I'm doing these AI webinars on how do you get more leads and how do you go after this and that and blah, 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 blah. Instead of kind of taking a step back and saying who already knows, likes, and trusts, what CPAs do I work with? So Wally, I should have practiced his last name before I jumped on here, but Wally
I'll be
talks about finance. Yes, thank you. Sorry, Wally, if you're ever watched this. But the point is, he talks about financial planners, CPAs. Amir Syed talks about that. Denise Donahue talks about that. Everybody talks about that. But in even that page 5 of the 1003, for those listeners that like to say 1003, but asking people, like, do you have a CPA? How would you rate them? If they rate them 8 or above, great. Can I have an introduction? Like, there is some low hanging fruit that I knew I wasn't taking advantage of. So I'm starting to incorporate that more, instead of signing up for every AI thing that's going to go put me on the internet and flood me with, people. It's okay. How do I go deeper in the relationships I already have? Asking realtor partners, who do you use, or do you have somebody that you like? Because I have a great CPA that I like. I refer him all the time. And I met another one I'm in a networking group with. She's fantastic. I'll give her name too. just looking for where are easier introductions instead of trying to do like go to Yelp, and which I know works for some people, but where else can I go deeper with relationships that I might be overlooking or opportunities that I'm overlooking, just right now. So I think that's a big one, because becoming the buy now sell later person is great, but I almost have to remind people that I do other stuff too. Like that is something. And so I've been calling the
Right.
realtors that
Yeah.
are referring me that product lot, just say like, hey, how'd your open house go? Or hey, do you have anybody that you need me to run numbers for that's interested? Like, don't forget that I still do VA loans, I still do FHA, I still do DSCR, big statement, like all that stuff. So it's lead with the one program, but then have those follow up calls and those, biweekly touches, whatever, to remind them that I do other stuff too.
Right. Well, I think what your like where your mindset is really smart, especially given the season of life that you're in, where maximizing your time is clearly very important. You've got a nearly 4-year old kiddo at home.
Hmm.
Your husband has a pretty unpredictable schedule with his job, which is a fascinating job, by the way. And you're running some pretty serious production, yet just sort of you shared with me that you feel like you're really only running about like 30% of your capacity right now. So,
Yep.
what does grace look like for you in this season where you recognize that there's a gap between where you are today and where you want to be? And how do you deal with it?
Yeah, that is a daily thing almost, right? Because I am wired. I mean, I've worked since I was 15, and before that, babysitting jobs and all that. But my husband, actually, I have to credit him with this, is he's like, don't wish the time away. So I mentioned my daughter wasn't in any daycare till she was 2. And I struggle because I actually just turned 48 on Saturday. She'll be 4 in June, and my husband will be 50 in June. So there's part of me that has this, hey, how many more years are you going to be doing this? And then also part of me of, let's hurry up. Like my goal when I'm thinking about production and what does that mean, for me, it's freedom, even more freedom, because I am a sucker for a GoFundMe. Like, I love helping people there, and I love donating just in my community. But I also want to be able to do stuff with my family, like go to the Colosseum in Rome and not just let her see that in a book, right? Or I think because we're older, so to speak, I want to do even more memories with her because unless they find a way for me to live till I'm 120, I can't help it. I know it's kind of morbid, but it's, what can I do now, and like just pack in those years that I have with her. But Friday I had a realtor call me with a buy now, sell later opportunity. These people were going to be contingent, but then they, fell in love with something. And so I'm all over it. Okay, let me have the conversation, doing the Zoom. I'm really big on trying to do like Zoom consults too, just for that one-to-one connection. Do the application, I'll get all your pay stubs, blah, blah, blah. And then I go to the park because I need to remind myself to leave the house and go do things with my family, right? So we go to the park. There happens to be a school carnival going on that's attached to the park. We go to the carnival. My phone starts going off. Do you have 15 minutes right now? I'm like, no, I'm at the park. But I can be available at 9:15 p.m., whatever it is. But then they ghosted me. And then let's talk in the morning. And they ghosted me again in the morning. And I went, and do math, like that would have been this much money. Did I mess it up because I wasn't available right when they needed me, or was it just not meant to be? And I was like, it's not meant to be. There's somebody else, and I hope I help them, make their decision otherwise going forward. But the fact that I am able to pick her up from school every day, if there is a little class project, I mean, we are so fortunate in this business. I posted a meme on my social media the other day where it said, how blessed am I to be an entrepreneur? I get to wake up at 3 a.m. and think about everything I have to do, and at 11 p.m. change my entire business plan. And that's not total verbatim, but the point is, we are blessed that we do have that freedom to go and do. But I can't imagine like what my mom did when I was born at 6 weeks old. She's dropping me off at 7 a.m. at a babysitter. She's picking me up at 5:30 at night, coming home, making dinner, and doing it all over again. That like breaks my heart. I hate dropping her off for 6 hours. So I give myself that grace of, sure, you're not where you're not maybe where I'm not where I maybe want to be, but feeling like I'm at 30% and having the year that I did last year, what a blessing. Like I mean, I made more than a lot of people did, and to me, did I think it would feel better to make that much? Sure. I just feel like, there's more to do. But when I really step back and think about what a blessing to be able to be there with her, to pick her up at 2, and if I need to for an hour and a half, play with her and feed her, and then she goes down for a nap. Like, how great is that I'm not killing myself trying to get back to work and clock in for my shift. So I give myself grace that way.
Yeah,
It's
there
hard.
are just some things you can't put a price tag on, or that you can't put a value on. They're priceless things, and I think we all go through different seasons in life, and there are going to be different times where time means something different to you, and the
Yeah.
ability to use that time is going to be different. And but I love that you're making the most of the opportunity today, and sort of being mindful of what things were like for you, and the story you shared about your mother. So I appreciate you sharing that, by the way. But Erin, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I want to give you an opportunity here as we sort of wrap things up. If there's a question I haven't asked, or if there's something that you really wanted to share with the audience today that you just haven't had an opportunity to talk about, I want to give you that opportunity right now. And I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, so if there's nothing, that's okay. But I did just want to, give you an open floor, and you can speak your mind.
Yeah, I think just again, putting yourself around other people that are achieving. There was, for a while there, I was getting up and jumping on the loan officer breakfast club. There's something called the breakfast club. So it's an East Coast based call. It's like 5:30 here. But I found when I was getting in a funk or kind of stuck there, that was a community that was all about, yeah, okay, great, things are hard. What? But there's business out there. Like mindset. Like mindset is such a big thing. And so I was doing that, but then I also was realizing I was exhausted because I can't go to bed early to save my life. And then I found out, oh, they're recorded. So I don't need to get up at 5:30 to catch that and be inspired. I can watch it later, but let's make sure I watch that later. Make sure I hear that later. Denise Donahue is somebody I really respect in the industry. She has a coaching program that I'm actually in. Now, do I do all the classrooms and am I taking full advantage of that? No, I'm kind of lighting money on fire every now and then. But guess what? 2 weeks ago, I said enough of that. I know that this could bring value. I need to make the time to actually do that. And then I also can be sort of loyal to a fault. I had another coach that I paid too much money for, and it was a lot of like woo woo feely, and I'm more of a dude than I am a girl when it comes to that stuff. I don't watch Housewives. I love muscle cars. Like I love football. I just want kind of that straight, like, go do it. Stop manifesting, go do it, right? And so finding, I think, allowing yourself the opportunity to find, whether it's Dave Savage, he gives a lot of free content out. It's great. Win by Noon, great content out there. Go try different things, different podcasts, your podcast. There's all kinds of podcasts out there that give you insight or an edge or something, and then find something that resonates with you, and then just stick to those two or three. And maybe that's for a month, and then maybe you switch it up like another month later. But David Goggins, he can be a polarizing person, but that can't hurt me. That was huge. Like, what are you whining for? Go do it. Like, why do you think this is so hard? Like, just commit and do something. So Mel Robbins, let them. Like, that is something, just an audible, but knowing that I'm really not going to sit there and read, but can I listen as I'm driving in a car? Yes. Then make it, go for what's easy, but is going to be effective. So I definitely do value coaching, listening, always learning, because things change in our industry so quick, and just take advantage of people that have kind of figured those things out, and how can you go forward and then help the next person.
Great. Yeah. I mean, mortgage is no shortage of free materials to inspire you or to learn from, right? There's so many,
Yeah.
like you named off so many people: Dave Savage, Denise Donahue, Amir Syed earlier, Wally Albiari, like so many coaches and programs that are willing to give. And, I mean, you got to find some inspiration somewhere sometimes, and discipline will
Yeah.
always beat inspiration, but sometimes you need it. You know what I mean? Sometimes discipline's really hard. But Erin, I really appreciate you sharing your story, and what you're, working on right now, and just the wisdom that you've gathered over the years. with the audience here today. And I just want to say thanks for being on the lowdown, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate you.